such a pleasure and opportunity to get you to chime in today for my first uh, podcast, I guess, if you will, on the S.L. Williams format. I am excited to be here and talk to you guys, and yeah, let everybody come on in. We're going to talk a little bit tonight. Um, we're gonna talk a little bit tonight about all the things uh, that is going on in the world and some things that are happening. And so I hope everybody can hear me. I'm really, really, really excited. Hey there, Aisha. And I'm hoping that you will get something out of this tonight. And so let's talk about it. Let's talk about the behind the veil. This is Stephen Williams. They call me the Good Bishop, and I want to welcome you to Behind the Veil. This is my first podcast, if you will, on this week. And so it's going to be good. And what we're doing is we're taking things from behind the veil. And phone is ringing, but we're taking things from behind the veil. And we're discussing some wonderful things and having some dialogue, if you will. And it's going to be absolutely wonderful. So let me tell you a little bit about how it's going to go. And so I welcome you here. And let me say this on the front: these views are here. They are just simple opinions for what you are seeing. They're simple research stuff I've tried to research to get some information on. I'm going to have some absolutely great guests, and hopefully you will be one of the guests one day. You can come on and be a part. You'll be able to call in and have comment and dialogue on this Behind the Veil podcast. And so there are three phases to me. There are three phases to me that I want to talk about. There are three phases: the man, the music, and the ministry. And so we're going to talk about that, dealing with the music and the man. And I want to do two things. We're going to have a song of the week. I'm going to introduce you. Hey, Sylvia. We're going to have a song of the week, and we're going to have words of encouragement for the week. And so I want to have this dialogue. Now, tonight, we're going to be talking about 846. We're going to be talking about 846. And am I a man yet? 8 minutes, 46 seconds. And we're going to talk a little bit about what's going on right now in this atmosphere. But before we get there, those of you who know me, hopefully you'll get an opportunity to learn something. You're going to laugh a little bit, hopefully. And then when it's over, I trust that you're going to live. Now, let's get to it. So what I want to do is the song of the week. Every week, I'm going to play a new song, something to encourage your heart. This particular week, I'm going to play a song for you that was done, and it is a part of my words of encouragement. And so this particular gospel tune was actually done in my house. It was done by me. I actually did all the vocals, all of the stuff. And what it was is it was an opportunity for me during this pandemic, as I give you your encouragement. It was an opportunity for me to look at my own self, look at my gifts and my possibilities, and look at the things that I could actually do. And that's what I want you to do right off the bat. This week, I want to encourage you right off the bat. I want to encourage you that whatever it is, whatever the dreams are, whatever the things that you're going through, you can actually get it accomplished. You can actually do this. And so this is a song that was done by me. I did all the backgrounds. I did all the mixing. So far, I've done all the mixing. But I want to show you and I want to illustrate to you that if you just look at yourself, you'll be able to enjoy this moment. Good morning. Good evening to everybody. Good evening to everybody. Thank you so much for joining me and allow me to come into your space. But check this out. So this is a song that I want to introduce you. I'm breaking off my new song. I see you, Bishop Young. I'm breaking off my new song. And I just want you to listen for a few minutes at the stuff that I was able to do. And I want you to be able to do it. Look at yourself and your ability. All right. If you're ready for the song, Shoot me something. Shoot some thumbs up. And yeah, yeah. Throw some things up. Throw some love. Here it is. A song is being featured here by Stephen Williams. I did it all at the crib with some microphones and all that good stuff. And so I hope you enjoy it because I certainly having a ball by it. So this is our song of the week coming from yours truly, Stephen Williams. And then I'm going to give you the encouraging word of the week. Let's go. What's up, Go Smith? What's up, Jerry? Yeah, setting up the drive. What's up, Jason? Hey, Edna. What's up, Gerard? So that's where we're going to right there. All of that, and that wasn't even the best version of what I had. What am I saying? I did that because I was working with myself. I started doing something. I want to encourage you this week. One of the things I want to talk about when we start talking about behind the veil. I hope you enjoyed the song, by the way. But when we talk about coming behind the veil, one of the things that is happening is I don't know the streets as much, but we need to have a conversation from behind the veil and things like that. And me doing this particular song, my word of encouragement for you this week is no more silence. Now, when we talk about that, that is a key point right now in the racism. There is a key point that we're going to discuss later on tonight about being no more silence. But I want to take it a step further, and I want to encourage you, and I want to take it a step further. I want you to not be silent about your gift. I understand that we are in not only a pandemic, but we are in an atmospheric shift as it deals with, as it relates to racism. And we're getting ready to have a dialogue, if you will, about this racism. But I don't want you to be silent. While you're doing that, you still have a gift. You still have a purpose. This season of the pandemic is causing you should be taking time in all of this noise. In all of this noise, you should be taking time to get to know yourself. You should be taking time to get to know your gift. You should be taking time to know your strengths and your weaknesses. And I wrote down here something that I want to share with you is no movement, then it will not matter. So just like the protest, if there is no movement, then it's not going to matter. And so if you're not going to move in your giftedness, no more excuses, no more anything like that. Move in your giftedness and let's roll and fulfill your dreams. Take this moment, take this time in all of this noise with the pandemic and racism, and let's move into the things that you should be doing. Let's not lose sight of that. All right? Let's not lose sight. So that's my song of the week, and that's my word of encouragement. Now, I'm going to get into the dialogue a little bit about this 8 minutes, 46 seconds, and then I'm going to have a guest that's going to come on in a few minutes. I wanted to give you some thoughts on this, and this is my first time, and I'll be here weekly. We're going to come up, but we're going to have subject matter. Y'all ready for this? I want you to join in because the subject matter that we're going to talk about is from behind the veil. All right, sowing versus saving. Why didn't the church talk to us about saving? I want to talk to broken, beautiful but broken. How is it that you're so beautiful, but yet on the inside you're so broken? You don't think much of yourself. I want to talk about when is my man coming? Yeah, I can't wait to get to that one. I want to talk about depression, anointed and depressed, all at the same time. And so these are the kind of discussions we're going to delve into. Musicians, are you covenant or are you just a contract? What are we going to do about that? What is the church going to look like going forward? What is the world going to look like going forward? Are we finished inside the building, or are we really going to have to deal with this mechanism of being online? One of the purposes for this podcast is that we cannot tackle every subject from the pulpit. There is no time. We only have about an hour or maybe 40 minutes to give you an encouraging word. And it is for these things right here that I wanted to talk about this. And I want to have another platform to be able to do this. All right. And so tonight, I wanted to start this conversation off, and my guest will be in shortly. My guest will be in shortly. I see you, Goldsmith, watching me on your TV. I hope this is good. Now, I start this off because I wanted to go exactly to the Declaration of Independence, and everybody has quoted the front of the Independence, but in the second paragraph of the Declaration of Independence, I want to read this, and I want to be careful about what I'm saying. It says, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure," because I wanted to keep on moving, "that to secure these rights, the rights for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed." And so the government gets their rights to do it from the people who are governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, what ends? To try to cut off my pursuit of life, liberty, and happiness. It is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and their happiness. What am I saying? Is that the Declaration of Independence gives you the right to be able to create, have you are created to be able to pursue life, liberty, and have that pursuit of happiness. And so my question in my subject matter is, am I a man yet? Am I a man yet? Because the reality is, if the Declaration of Independence is put out there, that these truths are self-evident, that all men are created equal, am I a man yet in the sight of the people who are governing, who established this particular Declaration of Independence? I wanted to give you some information. I want to share something with you that I did some homework, and I thought about this, and I wanted to share just this particular dialogue. All right. I was born, and I'm going to go a little bit deeper, all right? I'm going to be a little bit personal. I was born in 1967, all right, in 1967. And that makes me 50-something for those of you who want to count. And so I did not realize that Emmett Till happened in August of 55. And so Emmett Till, that murder of that 14-year-old boy, happened in August of 1955. 1955, 1965 is 10 years. I'm born in 67. So 12 years after the Emmett Till fiasco, if you will, I'm born. All right. Now, in 19, there was a guy in Herbert Lee in September of 61. He was murdered by policemen. There's a Captain Duckworth in April of 62. He is murdered. I'm going somewhere with this. Medgar Evers. Well, let's get back. Yeah, Medgar Evers. He was assassinated in 63. The Alabama babies, the bombing of the Alabama, Addie Mae Collins, Denise McNair, Carol Roberts, Cynthia Wesley. They were in September of 1963. They were bombed. John F. Kennedy was killed in November of 1963 because, in part, for his stance for the African American or for equal rights. And when we look at, there was a guy named Lewis Allen who was killed by police in 64. I threw this in. Malcolm X was killed in 65. And of course, Martin Luther King was killed in 68. All right. So you're going to say, what does all of this mean? Think about this for 1 minute. That at the age that I am, that the person who thought this way, that the black man was not humanized, that person is only 12 years older than me, which means that person now is 65. And so racism has been systemic. It has been in the governing movement. 3 years before I'm born, Malcolm is dead. 1 year after I'm born, King is dead. So the people are actually still around. The people are actually still around. And so when you look at this, you have to understand that there is an atmospheric thing when we deal with this thing called racism. So 8 minutes and 46 seconds. 8 minutes and 46 seconds. Am I a man yet? If we have to create a dialogue, we have to create a dialogue in which we want to be able to talk about this particular thing of killing unarmed men. I want to challenge you, everybody who's listening to me. I want you to go to something called mappingpoliceviolence.org. 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 And I want you to sit there and I want you to see all of the things that have happened, all of the people who have been murdered. And I'm not here, again, I'm not here to press I'm bringing to light some things that we've hidden from behind the veil. And we've got to be able to talk about this so that we can help each other. And I know it is a tough conversation. I know it's going to be a tough conversation, but it is one that we can have. It is one that we should have. It is one that we need to have in order for us to be better. Hey, Justin, I am so grateful for all of you just coming in to let's have a dialogue. And you feel free to shoot me some comments if you have any questions, and I'll get to it. I have a guest who's coming in. I have a guest on the line, and I want to talk about it. I want to bring him in to the conversation. I want to bring him into the conversation that we're about to have as we're dealing with this issue. With this 8 minutes and 46 seconds, everybody is bringing up the fact that the guy was George Floyd had a checkered past, if you will. He had a checkered past. And we're going to ask this question. The question on the floor is, you have to know, well, why did he have a checkered past? Was it because he was systemically suppressed and oppressed? Don't know. It doesn't matter what he did. It doesn't matter. Let's say he wasn't doing what they said he was doing. He wasn't doing it at that moment. And so to look at that, to be able to look at that man and dehumanize him, to not count him as a man, humanity should have stretched us to be able to think about the fact that this is a human being. And I want to say earnestly, honestly, I am proud of my white brothers and sisters, and they are stepping up. They are saying that we matter to them. They are saying that, and that is helping me realize that that there is a shift in the culture, And I'm not going to be one-sided. Coming from behind the veil, I'm coming from both sides of the veil. And I want to be able to share with you that the African American or the black man and the black community, we have some stuff we got to work on. We have some things we got to work on. But this systemic measure of racism, we're going to have to deal with it. And I believe that God is using this time and this moment to do it. Listen, my special guest, and I want to share with you that I hope that you all will be one of my special guests on different subject matters. And I want you to really chime in, send me a comment, because I would love to have you on my hang out with me as we talk about these particular things. And I want you to be able to have good dialogue, and I want us to be able to share in the moment, and I want you to be able to enjoy it. So please send me some comments, because the subject matter we about to tackle is about to be on and wonderful. We're just having to tackle this tonight. And so my first guest is a young man, James V. Tyner. He's a native of Walkertown. And he graduated in all these schools here in Winston-Salem, Forsyth. He is a Masonic member of Worthy Travelers Lodge, number 63. He is the Grand Chaplain of the state of North Carolina and a member of King Solomon Council. He's employed right now at Robert's Funeral Home, making a lot of money because a whole lot of people leaving here. And he's married. I don't want to get in trouble with his wife, Latasha, and they got 3 beautiful children. Are you on with me, Doc? Are you on with me, James?
I am, good Bishop. I am here.
Oh, this is so good. I hope y'all can hear him. Amen. And so he's hanging out with me tonight. One of the reasons, wait a minute, how you doing, first of all?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
Good. One of the reasons why I invited him to be a part, it was twofold. Number one, what I've learned a little bit about him is that first of all, he's a member at GBC, but he comes from them streets, and the Lord is saving him. The Lord is turning him around. And so I
Yeah.
wanted to talk to him from that vantage point. But I also wanted to talk to him because he's an African American male or a black male. Hey, have y'all noticed that we have turned black now? It ain't even, like Black Lives Matter now, not African American lives, but Black Lives Matter. So we're back to being black. But he's in his 20s, whereas I'm a little older. And so we want to talk about the differences between the two generations. This 846 is something. And am I a man yet? Am I treated like a man? And so we just get ready to have a quick dialogue, and we won't hold you long, but it's going to be a good discussion, and we hope we're going to come with some resolution. All right. So tell me a little bit about your upbringing and your experience with the police and how they treated you, if they treated you justly or not.
Well, to go forward, moving with that, I had a pretty good upbringing, so to speak. My mom kept me in a pretty good neighborhood, raising me. She did her best that she could by me, single parent. And everything was going good. So I never really had any problems per se with the police until I was 17 years of age. And it stemmed from me being in the right place, but at the wrong time, if that makes sense.
Let's talk about it.
So basically I was in my neighborhood, but my skin didn't belong there. I was in my neighborhood, but my skin didn't belong there. So being that my skin didn't belong there, I was actually held at gunpoint by a police department. I'm not going to say no names, but I was, and I was terrified. I'm 17 years old. I did not fit their criteria as a human being, and I also didn't fit their criteria as of what I had on.
Okay.
So I was that's one strike against me because I'm of color, two strikes because I am a man. A lot of people leave that out when we in the world, and people tend to forget that you already have two strikes against you as being a colored male.
Right.
So, that was something that was that played a point of it, and it wasn't all suits and ties when I was growing up. God is blessing me thus far now to move into that area. But so I think more so what I had on might have played that part of saying, oh, he's a thug, he's a heathen, or whatever the case may be. So I was put into that predicament. However, it made me feel as if, I wasn't who I was supposed to be at that time, if you understand what I'm saying.
I got you.
Maybe, and I had a long talk with myself, like, maybe I shouldn't be this color, or why am I this dark, or, why am I being treated like this? Some questions that we just have unanswered because, one, I'm 17 years old. I'm young, so I'm not all into the Civil Rights Act and everything of that case.
Right. Now I will say this, and I wanted to say this to my audience as well. I'm 53 years old. I'm from a small town called Rockingham, North Carolina. And the reality is, and me and my good friend, I think Mishwell is still on here, and hopefully he'll be a part of my one of these podcasts because we have some great conversation. But one of the things that we talk about is that in my entire life, one of the things that the church has been silent about it, but I've never been, God, please don't let it happen now, but I've never been harassed. I don't know if it's because I was at the right place at the right time or never at the wrong place, but I've never been held at gunpoint by police. I've always treated them right, and so I understand, and I wanted to say this, that just because it hasn't happened to me doesn't mean I shouldn't have some sensitivity to it. All right. And so I get what you're saying when you're asking the questions of being in this skin and you're the only one, or you're in this right neighborhood, but they view you as a thug. Now, I will say this, a place that I've worked, I've walked behind people and people have clutched their bags, thinking that I was going to take their bags because of the color of my skin, and I'm a fairly large person, I'm being told, and so the woman just kept on walking and clutching her bag, and I found that to be comical. I should have been insulted, but I wasn't, and I went on about my business. But in your case, is wearing is wearing clothes an issue? Is that what you presume, or do you believe it is based out of the color of your skin?
Well, it's not so much as the clothes that's the issue for us in the urban or African American community, because we call it, as we would say, style or what's
Right.
hip at that time. So, but they would call it, and they would see it as being a thug or being a heathen or being a part of a gang, because certain things have happened before in prior cases, and this is what most people wear, and this, that, and the third. So it does play a part, but not as much. I think it's more so it piggybacks off of, yes, it's the color of your skin, but it piggybacks off of, okay, yeah, so he fits the description.
Mm.
So, in my era and time, it was white tees, saggy jeans, so everybody wearing that. So you put into a place of, okay, I'm just like the other guy that you want me to be instead of who I am.
And see, that's where I have a challenge, because I don't know, and I want to get on a dialogue with the police department, because I want to know if this is 400 years of your training, then, and we're still having this same issue, then it's either we are hiring people who are racist, or this is the actual training mechanism that you clump all of the people who look the same in the same kind of thing. So it won't matter if I'm educated, I got a degree, but if I have on jeans and Timbs and a t-shirt, it seems like that officer automatically gravitates to how I look versus to getting to know who the person is. And I think that's what we are having a problem with in our society. I think, and they just make a judgment call, skin color, you look like that, you must be up to no good. And
Right.
I believe that has been a problem in the world globally. Here in Winston, you cross one part. If I go on the east side, I'm treated completely different than when I am, and I guess I live on the west side over here by Wake. And so, but if I go east, I'm looked at. But when I'm over here, it is, yes, sir, how are you? They give me the benefit of the doubt. Now, granted, I'm not dressing in Timbs, and I'm not driving a Benz. I'm driving a little Honda, but it shouldn't matter to me. It seems like that the training is, if they look like it, let's get them. That's
Right.
so.
Right.
So how do you feel? How do you feel? Wait a minute. Let me back up. Do you feel like you were treated unjustly at that moment, and has it happened again since you were 17?
It hasn't happened again.
Okay.
No. Do I feel? No, it hasn't happened again. And do I just, when you look at certain officers of a different race, and they look back at you, it's a thing to say, okay, am I going to be the one today? It's always something in the back of your head that's going to say, am I going to be the one?
Wow. And that's the viewpoint of a 20-year-old.
Right.
Almost 30.
Almost 30. Almost 30. So it puts you in a place of saying, am I really going to be the one? Is this me? So I'm torn between the two. And one, like I said earlier, I'm a black man. I'm also a black man, and I'm a male, and I'm in an urban community, whatever you have you, or I'm on the urban side of town. So are you going to push me out to pick on me today?
Got you. Yeah, and I do believe that there is some of that uh, authority. The person who has the authority, and what I asked to have a seat at the table because one of the problems I think that is facing with the police department, and that's happening with this whole "Am I Man" is that there is no consequence. There is absolutely no consequence if a policeman picks on me, gets it wrong, treats me subhuman, and then they seem to be able to walk away and not be able. I mean, have no remorse about it. What we are seeing, I'm told people get arrested. Lord, please don't let me get arrested now that I'm talking about this on my podcast because I'm gonna think somebody picking on me, and I'm gonna talk a little bit more. But so how do you feel about that? And this is a little insight note. So how do you feel about the police department in general with your wife working in law enforcement? And she is a sister.
Yes, she is. She is a sister.
To the 10th power.
Being that my wife is in law enforcement, the only thing I can do, and I just pray for her every day, that she leaves out to go do the job that she was held up to do. I pray for her. But we, as men and women of color, being that we have had so much injustice in the past, we're looked at completely, or well, might I say, she's looked at completely different as to saying, okay, yes, she's black, she's a sister, but once you put that badge on, you're blue.
Mm. So do you think it is fraternal? Because, I know it's got to be fraternal. Reason why this stuff is a cover up, which is why I wanted my subject matter tonight to be stop being silent.
Right.
I think just because we're blue, because we're going to talk about this issue, I'm going to bring up some stuff because I can only bring it up from behind the veil, and I'll let you finish that conversation. But I also want to talk that the silence is what's killing us. And it's that same silence. And we're going to have this conversation on another day, on another podcast. But it's the same silence that I think is happening in the church that allows people, preachers, singers, all of that. It allows them to prey on people. And it's the silence. We let people dog people out, write bad checks, have babies out of the way, and nobody says anything. Nobody says anything. So we operate and we function under grace in the church, and we don't deal with the issue. We still invite them to come, and they can treat us like dogs, and nobody says anything. And I think that's the situation that is happening with the police department. And I'm just curious, is because your wife is a sister, so where does she fall on being black versus being blue?
Well, and that's just a thing. Like, it's to me, it seems like you straddling both sides of the fence, and you shouldn't have to.
Got you.
But it wasn't something that you shouldn't have to make a choice versus a career that you chose as your passion versus us as a community as a whole. We should be able to come together on certain things. And that's my thing that I'm going towards now. It's like, okay, we all say one apple spoils the whole bunch.
Or at
but
least
not in this
at
case,
least a
because
bad
every
one.
apple isn't bad.
Right.
Every apple isn't bad. Just like every policeman isn't bad.
Right.
Every policewoman isn't bad. You have some white males that are bad. You have some white females that are bad. Some black males, some black females. So you can't say all of them are bad, but there's a lot of good in a lot of officers. But being that's what's going on at that time, that's what we're faced with, right then and there.
Because this has really been a systemic thing. This has really been, a serious issue. And this isn't the first time this has happened. I mean, it has really been happening. I think this is the first time that we've all seen it. And this is what I said. The reason why I think it struck me at my age. I
Right.
think this has struck me. And again, this is somebody who's never been harassed. I've never been, Mission and I talk about we go where we're supposed to go and we go home when it's time to go home. Right. But this was my first lynching. If there was ever a time where, somebody publicly hung a black man in the, and you saw him die in front of you, that camera gave me what looked like a lynching would have taken place. And I think it just struck a chord that I was so angry. And I couldn't believe how saved I was, how much I loved the Lord, and how angry I got. Oh my God. I was so upset and furious at the treatment. And I was trying to figure out from behind the veil, why did it take me so long as a person who promotes kingdom, who promotes Jesus, who promotes unity? I work in a diverse environment where I'm probably the diversity. And so I'm working for togetherness. But this particular thing took me, and you know how we can, preachers who know the Bible, we can find a scripture. And I found be angry but sin not. So I decided I was just gonna go ahead and be angry. I was beyond myself, and so I wanted to ask: Do you think it is racism, or do you think it is improper training?
I'm gonna say, honestly, I'm gonna think it's a bit of both.
Okay.
And the reason being it's a bit of both, the reason that it's being a bit of both is because as a police officer, man, woman, white, black, Asian, whatever the case may be, we're still human. They're still human at the end of the day.
Right.
And that's why I think society fails to realize they're still human. So there's a lot of issues that are going on at home. There's a lot of issues that are going on, just beyond their home, and personal issues or whatever the case may be. That's all in one. So when I say it's a failure on training, is because our officers should be getting more excessive training when it comes to psychology thinking. When if they've been into a gunfight or whatever the case may be,
right,
they need to be receiving that extra training along the line in reference to that, on how being able to serve our people better, because they took an oath to uphold the law and to defend the people in the community.
Right. Right.
And where it gets into racism is, Mr. John, he's out on a long weekend, and a couple of his brothers, they're not on the same tier as he is. So influence changes a lot of things in a lot of people. You can take somebody that was never involved in any type of racism or injustice or any type of dealings with different race, but once you get around, like there we go again, one bad apple spoils it.
Right.
And then he's giving off that negative energy, and it's making this officer now turn to the negative person that we're not wanting today. So the guy that lynched him, that murdered him in broad daylight, was probably a good officer when he started out. I'm going to give him that. I mean, I don't know him.
I understand that.
So I'm going to give him that.
I understand that. I understand that viewpoint. But yeah. I understand that viewpoint. But I honestly believe that they being the white race has had a thought in their mind that the black man, or that black America, we're number one, self-destructive,
right,
that we are not human. Because I was sharing with somebody, I'm still trying to figure out, how are you afraid of me when you hold all the cards? Because it's not just racism that I see it. It comes across like you are afraid You hide behind the badge, and I think I was upset one Sunday, and I said, just take the badge off, take the gun off, and then let's take your training and let's take my street training, what little bit I got, and let's see what happens. And so, but that's not the case. They have the authority. Yes, you're correct, Aisha. It is the same way, because I can only talk about it from behind the veil. And it is the same mechanism that the pastor has the authority, and they abuse that authority. And so somebody has to be held accountable for the actions. I give them the benefit of the doubt, because I agree with you. There are some good ones, but there are some bad ones. And right now, did you see where they pushed the 75-year-old man down, busted the back of his head, and then they kept right on going? I'm like, are you all that? Like, people can't even protest.
And see, that's the issue that I have. Yes, I seen that. And those officers were held accountable faster than George Floyd. I mean, we had to tear the city up. We had to set things on fire. For any of this to ever happen, but a 75-year-old Caucasian man has fell down on the ground, has bled out, and it's not an issue. I mean, it's an issue. We got to jump on this right now.
Yeah, but I think it's because it's on camera. I saw another one where one of the policemen hit another white man with a metal stick. I was like, they are anybody who's protesting. And so when I went back, this was something that I thought was funny. When I went back to look at the Declaration of Independence, do you know how they came together? They protested. That was where we were taught about the Tea Party, and they protested. And then we had the Revolutionary War, where they began to fight for it. And so here it is. You can't even protest. And it's a difference in being looters, and we need to ask the question, why are they looting? But to protest, you establish the United States of America by virtue of a protest. And now that people are protesting, not doing anything, protesting, saying that they want something changed, and now you don't even want to give the people the right to protest. And that's a problem for me.
It goes, okay, and so where you just said there was a white man hit with a pole or whatever the case may be,
right,
is still set apart on the lines of saying, okay, if you're not with me, then you're with them, so you're also the problem.
Now that is true. That's true. That is true. I agree with you there.
And now that I've seen it, I mean, on MLK today, there was more Caucasians, whites, however you have it, out there more than it was blacks.
That is true. And
so
now, I'm enjoying that.
It is coming to a point where people are tired. And we're not even talking about race. We're talking about just people in general that are tired.
Mm-hmm.
And people want, my mom used to say, people, you're gonna be sick and tired till you get sick and tired, and then you just got to do something.
And I think that's where Black America is, and I think that's where all of America is. Forget that. I think that's where the world is. In my lifetime, I've never seen, which is why I've always stated that there is a systemic shift right now, because I've never known people to care about that. And I agree with something Aisha just wrote in here. Are charges accountability, or is conviction accountability? And I think conviction has to be that mechanism. But let me ask something. I need to ask two things of you, and then, because I don't want to belabor the moment. So I want to ask, what role do you think the church needs to play or has played, and what role does the Black community needs to play? And this is coming from your vantage point, because I don't know if you grew up in your 20s, like my son in his 20s are, he grew up with white people, and so he didn't experience racism that he knew of till he got to college. And so That was not my plight, but I want to talk a little bit about that a little bit later. But what do you think the role of the church is, and the role of the black community? And I really want to tackle the church because that's what I know.
At this point, our role needs to be it's time up. It's time up from being quiet and just sitting back and continue to letting this happen and let our people perish and we do nothing about it. A lot of people, a lot of churches are quiet because they're government funding. A lot. I'm not saying all, but a lot are quiet. So, I asked this question, a couple years ago when this thing was first steaming on from some other churches. Oh, well, we can't get into that. I'm like, well, why not?
Right.
These are our people. Because, in
Mike,
the 50s and 60s, this is where we came to the church.
Right.
So it's time to revert back to the church from whence we came.
I share with somebody that the church problematically, the church used to be community. The church used to be in the community, and the church used to be able to help the community. But the more we have gotten educated and we've excelled, most of our churches are no longer in our community anymore, and
right.
So we've got to do a better job. We've got to do a better job because I think we've been silent on the issue. We've
right.
gone through this white music, black music. We predominantly own. I think Jake said it that Sunday morning is the most segregated time in the nation because blacks worship with blacks, white worship with whites. But isn't this funny? Blacks will worship with whites and sit up under a white pastor, but some whites will not sit up under a black pastor. And so here it is again. Like I wanted to just say, 12 years removed, the person who had a thought pattern that Emmett Till should have been murdered right now is 65. And if that person has not changed the concept of his children and his children's children, then what's happening is there is a thought process, if you will, that that person was born during that time, that blacks had no worth, no value, and the church and the black community have got to do something different if we want to make a change. That's my 2 cents.
Right. You're right.
Are black men being targeted? Are all black men? Let's ask that question.
Not all black men. I think it's more so. The community of which you stay. I don't think it's all black men. I really don't. I think if you fit the criteria, then you are the target for what's going on. I really, honestly, and I truly think that. So I'm not going to say all black men are being targeted. But, am I going to tell this brother, oh, stop wearing what you're wearing because you're being targeted? I can't say that.
Yeah.
Because it takes out of, of him being himself.
Yeah.
He may not have been raised the way I was raised. So I can't tell you to, hey, put on a suit, brother. This is what they fear. Because what they fear is power.
I agree.
That's what they fear.
Yeah, I think power and education. I think the more
power, education, and wisdom. You have those, and you can go a long way. So I can't say that they're targeting every black man, but I can say if you are put into a place in a type of community that is known for problems, that is known for issues and situations that's going on there, whatever the case may be, then you are kind of put on the head platter as number one.
Yeah. Yeah. But I agree with you, but I don't think that I still think, and I think I'm gonna still feel that it is a power thing, because when they see me, or one of the things we tell our at least I told my son, put your hands on the wheel and say yes sir, no sir. Because if the moment you come up and you say something else other than that, they seem to get offended.
But
Nobody, people just don't like being, I don't know, they don't want no confrontation, don't want to be, they want to look like they got the power and they act like it. And so,
but
go ahead.
good. But my question is, what if that's not enough?
Yeah.
You know, if that's not enough, if you're dealing with, a man in a different race than you, that he's had a bad day and a bad run-in, is it enough?
Yeah.
You're being polite.
Yeah, I told somebody I like the cop that's had a good day, because if you get stopped for a ticket, that joker say, all right, I'm going to give you a warning. But if you get a bad day, cop, it's a bad day, because they have the power and they utilize that power. Going back to the 8 minutes and 46 seconds, 4 cops on a guy who's already on the ground, who's already in handcuffs. A knee had to be put on the neck, and you got 3 other cops sitting on him. It's hard for them to explain that even if he was, he had a checkered past, it is going to be very difficult for you to explain to me why you had to take that kind of route, And so,
but even if he did have a past, that should not be looked in today. He's paid his time, to society, or whatever the case, or whatever he did. That should not play a factor into having to manhandle a subject when you've already striking the target down.
Yeah, I agree. We're gonna. I want to, because in our final moments, because this particular podcast is only going to be about an hour, and so in my final moments, tell me some of the solutions that you think, or that you feel that we should pursue.
And this is where I'm at. You cannot take care of the cough without first taking care of the infection. And when I say that, I mean you have to go all the way up the food chain, from your local government to your state government to your federal government to your lawmakers. It's been people that have been in these places for too many years, and it's time for them to go. And they're making laws that are fit for their criteria instead of ours.
I agree.
So that's where we're at with that. Unless we change that, we're still going to continue to be in the same place that we are. So my question is, who's the next George Floyd? If we're not able to change this, if we're able to go out and protest and do this, then in November, everybody that's protesting needs to be out there.
Yeah, I agree. And
it's time.
And when I finish with that, once you finish protesting, once you finish protesting, I am so result oriented, and I feel like if we don't do something, we've got to go vote. We've got to deal with that. The church can no longer be silent anymore as it pertains to that particular concept. And here we are from behind the veil. We can no longer be silent. Here it is with this issue. But it's more than just protesting. It is also, I agree with you, we got to vote. And it's more than just the president, because he ain't making no real, you ain't going to see him. You're going to see the sheriff, or you're going to see the policeman in your local area. And so we must get to a point where we take this love of God, if you will, this gospel of Jesus Christ. Because, again, I can only talk from behind the veil. I've been doing this since I was since 1990. And so a lot of things I'm out of sorts with knowing. If you know me, I ain't got, my wife tell you right now, that joker ain't got no hip hop style at all. I need somebody to find me the right kind of jeans and stuff like that. I have to look at the people around me and see what they wearing to find out what to wear. But in the process of doing all of that, what we're having to do is we've got to make a difference in the court system. We've got to make a difference at the polls. We've got to make a difference with our voting. We've got to make a difference in our actions. We have to not be afraid to have the hard conversation. And I'm saying this to my brothers and sisters, my black brothers and sisters, to all of us. Let's not be afraid to talk about race, but let's not talk about it even to our white brothers and friends in such a place of anger. They can't understand it if we don't help them understand. But that has to be communicated. It has to be articulated. And it can't come from a place where you're screaming. Because if you're screaming, if you ever been in a good argument, you ain't heard nothing when you're screaming. Somebody
You're right.
has got to be silent. Somebody has got to be quiet enough to allow the other person to be able to speak their truth.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you, Denise. Until police officers are convicted for the crimes that they commit, then it's going to continue to be systemic, and the other police officers are going to have to figure out a way how to police their own. Now, having said that, which is what we're going to have to do, even as a people, not allow each other to go off on a tangent. I can't wait. I can't wait for us to have these dialogues with these podcasts, because we got to stop allowing our people to be ignorant to the things of not only of race, but I want to challenge us. I want to challenge us on our money. I want to challenge us on saving. I want to challenge us on forgiveness, because we love God. We do. We got him down in our heart. But it is amazing how much Jesus we have and how much less forgiveness. Now, right now, we need to fight with the policemen. We need protests. We need out. Y'all pray for me. I ain't at the forgive stage yet. No, there needs to be justice right now. Right now, there has to be justice for me. But the church at large, we've got to. Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait, Aisha. We're gonna do a panel of black girl colorism, light skin versus dark skin. I can't wait, because we have a lot of issues, and we're doing that from the church, from behind this veil, and we got to come out from behind this veil and address some of these issues head on. Talk it mano y mano. This 8 minutes, 46 seconds. We're getting ready to close. James, I don't know if we got anything done, but I'm thankful. I'm grateful for you coming on just to have this dialogue with me, coming from the young man's perspective. Coming from that young man's perspective, I pray that you live long. I pray that you prosper. I pray that success comes your way. And I pray that you, if you do get stopped, I pray you get stopped by the good cop, as do
Amen.
myself. And we'll do everything that we can do possibly to bring our anger down, because so that there would be a way for you to be able to talk. And I tell you, like I tell my son, I can fight for you if I can get you home. I cannot fight for you if you're dead.
Amen.
I can't do it. Hey, Mike, glad you could come on and hang out with me. Listen, I'm finished this week. We thank you so much for this opportunity. Listen, go do something. Be proactive. Don't be silent. Don't be afraid to speak your heart. Don't be afraid, but speak your heart with passion. But make sure you bring your volume down a couple of notches, because maybe these people just don't understand. Some of them just don't understand that white privilege is real. And they can't see it because they live in it. And so we have to educate them on why this is the way that it is. And we have to do that not only from our jobs, but we have to do that from behind the safety of the Bible, of the book. And we have to do it, celebrate Jesus Christ, but we must also address the issues of racism. We must classism, colorism. We must do it. We must talk about this and bring it to the forefront. And I hope you have gained something tonight. I hope you will join me next week as we continue on with the podcast. I'm going to have a song of the week. I'm going to have a song, a word of encouragement. I don't know who my special guest is going to be. I can see some people waving their hands saying, let me, ooh, ooh, ooh. So here's a quote that Jakes said, you know, our preacher. When reasonable people are silent, unreasonable people take over. When reasonable people are silent, unreasonable people take over. And if you're going to be silent about your giftedness, if you're going to be silent, not just about racism, I need you to stop being silent about your ability to accomplish it. Don't walk in fear. Walk in faith. Be the king and the queen you were made to be. Don't be silent in this moment. But for heaven's sake, don't be silent to yourself. You are well able and capable of doing great things. I want to thank you so much for hanging out with me as we leave this here podcast. I appreciate the opportunity for you to just let me be in your circle, and we get ready to leave here just on a little bit of music, something else. And this is what I'm saying to the Lord. We need you. Come on in the room, because we need your presence. Thank you for joining me for Behind the Veil. This is Stephen Williams. They call me the Good Bishop. Just your friend and your brother. Thank you, Sir James V. Tyner, for hanging out with us. Send your glory on us, and we'll forever give you glory and praise. Hey, until next week, Tuesday, 7 o'clock. Check me out. All right? Bye-bye.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, sir.
All right.